Yeah.
Let's go to something a little bit more political.
Yeah.
Since we do talk about politics on my channel. U.S. and Russian relations right now, they seem to be thawing thanks to, I guess, the Republicans and President Trump. Or maybe they just wanted to switch to China while they've battered Europe enough.
Yeah.
How do you see U.S. and Russian relations in the next 20 years or so? Do you see this magical thawing and us becoming friends again?
Well, remember, ideas can sometimes have a synthesis. You can have an honest MAGA movement that does want to have neutral, normal relations with Russia, but then also a sort of neocon desire to shift over to China, and they form a synthesis of essentially wanting the same first phases of sort of this plan. So don't forget that sort of both things could be true at the same time. Where do I see U.S. and Russian relations going? I don't know. A lot of that depends on J.D. Vance. You know, if he gets elected, things could carry along this seemingly better trajectory than not. Like, it's better than not. You know, it's more positive than negative. But but Vance, he's kind of boring. He's not a great orator. I don't know, man. But a lot. It's kind of the future of America is really in Vance's and his, marketing PR team. A lot of it's in their hands. So we'll see. In Russia, a lot of it also depends on who's going to be the next emperor. Our leader is not getting any younger, and at some point he's going to have to pass power to somebody else, and no one knows who that is. And that's the people are like, are you afraid to live in Russia? I'm only afraid that the emperor doesn't pick an heir. That's the only thing that scares me in Russia, is if unfortunately Vladimir Vladimirovich one day doesn't wake up and it's not clear who the next guy's going to be. We're going to have a lot of problems here for a while after, if that were to occur. So let's pray to God that doesn't, and that the next heir has been selected. Yeah, so it kind of depends on these people, and but the geopolitical, so some things depend on people, but the geopolitics, which doesn't really depend on people as much, Trump's already given Europe the boot. And again, a lot of the points of contention between Russia and the United States have tended to revolve around Europe, really. So,
well, because it's a market for products, it's a market for natural resources as well, to sell, obviously.
Yeah, it's something to sell, yeah.
So this might be a little bit of maybe a controversial thing to say, but in my opinion, America, or the US, technically has won in Europe, because we are currently cut off of SWIFT and a whole bunch of other different things that we used to do with Europe. Our gas is getting restricted. The Americans are selling more gas there. Not only that, but America also won because, like, German businesses invested like $600 billion over the course of 3 years into America. So Europe has been cleared out financially, spiritually, morally, and it's been replaced with migrants who, in the future, I have no idea what they're going to do.
Well, of course, this conflict started during the Biden period and with the people around him, and I don't quite. The problem is, I'm not like an economics expert that I can really tell you who is really sort of the deciding party that made this happen, or was it just purely by accident? But I can tell you one thing: Trump ain't dumb, hey, why not make America great and make the Europeans pay for it? Why not? He even during his very first presidential campaign, he even said that he wants Europe to pay for everything, especially about NATO. I think he had the more mafia attitude. Let's turn this into a protection scheme. You want America's protection? Pay up. Well, that's what's happening. But Europe is really, unfortunately, I'm not a doom and gloom person. There's some people who love to talk about, like, there's going to be a crash and everything's going to change. Again, Alex Jones paranoia, I'm not that kind of person. I would like the world to be nice and boring, to be honest, especially as a parent. But I do think that Europe is in a dire downward spiral. We've heard this from both American and Russian politicians, from a lot of people within Europe itself. So I don't think that the United States can rely on Europe being some sort of like colony to milk when that colony is falling apart, because it's either going to turn into some sort of the new migrants from other countries are going to be in constant conflict with the locals, and at some point, who knows, maybe some vicious local might rise up to slay the immigrants, or the opposite. We don't know. But my personal feeling, let's just say, my brain wants Europe to survive and for everything to be fine. But my gut instinct tells me there will be blood. So again, I don't think that there can be this long-term strategy of relying on Europe to provide anything for the United States. It's all temporary. The United States has to provide for itself.
But are Americans and Russians, I mean, normal people, we can be friends.
Yeah.
I have many friends from the US.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Russian friends as well. We can be friends, but on the government level, when it comes to geopolitics, natural resources, spheres of influence, do you think over the next 20 years we may be friends in this case, or are we still going to be enemies?
Average people are completely different from political elites.
Correct.
Russian normal people can be friends with anybody to some extent, right? But when it comes to like the political elites, I think, again, if you look into sort of like who am I talking about? Russian historians. We have Andrei Furtsov, Nikolai Statikov would agree with this. Who else would be? Maybe in an economic sense, if you listen to someone like Mikhail Khazin talk about the history of economics, the real battle, the real like blood hatred is between London and Moscow. It's not between Moscow and Washington, because at a few times in history, Russia has been on the same side as Washington, more so or not. Because if you look into how Churchill actually acted towards Stalin during the war, he was he was not much of an ally to Russia. And always, for the last 200 plus years, the real antagonist against Russia is England. After the Russians defeated Napoleon, you have the Vienna Congress. And after the Vienna Congress starts the very first Russophobic campaign going across Europe, coming from where? From London, to make sure that the Russians don't somehow take over the rest of Europe after those agreements were made. Then you have the war in the Crimea, again, Russia versus England. We have during the World War and the Russian Revolution, actually England trying to push forces, kind of using the United States as well, and affect what was happening within Russia, bringing down the Tsar and so on and so forth. And again, then you had the entire Cold War. And to this day, as we look through the war in the Donbass, most of the sort of like terrorist operations, it's believed that they're organized by MI6. That Kiev is nothing without MI6. So again, the enemy from a Russian elite standpoint is London, and always has been.
InfoWars. Not the Alex Jones InfoWars, but the InfoWar that many people participate on a daily basis. Is it real? Does it exist? Or is it just a made-up fantasy?
Well, InfoWars happen even between schoolgirls who all tell lies about each other in order to gain advantage. So yes, we can see it in our daily lives. If you work in some sort of office where people are talking behind each other's backs and stuff, that's everywhere. Everything is about PR, positioning, manipulation with words and all that. So yeah, and it happens between nations, it happens between ideologies and factions and religions and so on and so forth. A war of some sort of informational nature is happening around all of us. Coke or Pepsi, or now Dobry Cola or Cool Cola.
Ford or Dodge.
Yeah, I mean somehow, like if you even look to stuff like, it's apparently at some point in American culture, oranges were not really particularly popular, and Florida had a lot of them, and so they spread this campaign to tell the rest of the country that you should have orange juice for breakfast. So literally the fact that many Americans have orange juice for breakfast as part of some sort of like American tradition is just because they need to subject oranges onto the rest of the country to get rid of them, right? So essentially, there was a pro-orange juice info-war waged against the average American. Of course, I don't really consider myself a victim in that war because I love orange juice, but you see what I mean? There is a war, Alex Jones, there is a war on for your mind, right? He said that, and there is, but that war on for your mind is coming from people around you, weird people you work with, advertising companies, governments, again, religions, ideologies, and it's all happening around you, whether you like it or not, and there's no escape from it.
Oh, if you tell a person living in 2000s what the world is going to be like in 2025, going on 2026, you would sound Alex Jones-like as well if you just described the trends in churches, the different types of chemicals being poured here and there, and what's going on.
See, the thing is, man, you're talking to someone, like I told you, one of the reasons I'm in Russia is because I saw all this shit happening. But when I was a young man, a teenager or a 20-year-old, there was no MAGA. Like if I was a teenager now, a so-called Zoomer, rather than fleeing to Russia, I probably would have put my chips down on some sort of like MAGA movement or something or other. But in Cleveland, you're seeing just like the family be destroyed. You're seeing especially masculinity under attack on all fronts. That's one of the best things about living in Russia. We don't promote masculinity in Russia yet, but there's no restriction on it. You can be as masculine as you want. It's amazing. And all that other stuff was happening, but there was silence. I was completely and totally alone against society in every way. In fact, one thing that happened to me was one time there was like a racial quota for giving kids suspensions, and I said the word hell in school, and I got an out-of-school suspension for a few days, right? And that was one of those things where I kind of like knew, I was like, well, yeah, I see where this is going. I see where this shit's going. And that was in 1997 or 98.
But look how quickly things change. So, for example, you got suspended for the word hell, right? But now hell is actually technically promoted, and you can get suspended for being anti.
Oh yeah, no, but I got suspended for saying the word hell during a lesson where a black child said to the teacher, "Fuck you," directly. So that it's stuff like that. You see, I could sort of see where this was blowing, and eventually there was some sort of like review board, because I filed my parents filed a complaint about it, and they were two white people, and they were the woman especially was like the white liberal woman that's now become like a meme, and her and this guy, white people who I don't think have ever touched a black person with their physical hands in their life, were just kind of more like, could you just be a buddy and take the suspension? Could you just do it for us? I mean, it'd be really nice. Yeah, I mean, well, we have this quota. Like, could you be a pal and like fail out of high school so we can meet our quota? It's just one example. My house was also raided by the police without an actual warrant being filed, because I was the type of person who could commit the next Columbine shooting. So there's a bunch of stuff that happened in my past that I don't really like to bring up because it's kind of depressing, but just to say, I was shown the future of where society went, not because I'm a brilliant guy and I'm so smart, but because of certain circumstances happened to me. If you want to talk about someone who saw the future because they are smart, that's Alexander Dugin, the Russian philosopher. He is always 10 years ahead of the curve. Everything he writes is 10 years in advance, and his ability to see the future is unparalleled. I'm just lucky.
I mean, it's not technically speaking, you are an info warrior. How has that personally affected you?
Well, I've lost all my YouTube channels. I've been banned. I'm persona non grata on all Google services. I can't even use Gmail. A long time ago, Meta, Facebook banned me. So in a lot of ways, I'm banned on a lot of stuff, and I don't think it'd be in my best interest to experiment with traveling to the United States. I might be on like the list of bad people, even though again, I have never, ever called for the overthrow of the United States government, even during the worst Biden years. And I've never called for any Americans to lose their rights. I want you to have all the rights you can have and more. So yeah, so there's that. But I mean, besides that, like, so in a way, maybe on something that's actually sad is because of my choice of career and the fact that I'm concerned about whether something will happen to me if I return to the United States. I've essentially surrendered my parents. My father died recently, relatively recently. And so I essentially gave up the real chance to spend any time with my dad before he died. And who knows, you know, tomorrow's a new day and my mother's getting older and maybe I've sacrificed her as well. So in some ways I am an asshole. I chose an intellectual career over my parents. Sorry, Mom, I'm a dick. What can I say?
I mean, I wouldn't go that hard on yourself because it's not your fault that you're being persecuted for speaking the truth.
I am aware of the consequences and the risks. Oh, well, here's another thing. Consequences that did happen to me, but did happen to someone that I know very well. You're probably familiar with the assassination of Daria Dugina.
Of course, yeah.
Well, I spent a lot more time with Daria than probably 99.999% of people in Russia. We worked on some certain projects together. We were actually friends, not a romantic thing, not like that. Just kind of like friend colleagues. We, you know, spent a couple holidays together even. One time we went to go sell a TV show in France together with some other people. We got paid to put together this concept. Daria actually really wanted to start working in like big media, like making movies and TV. Yeah, so I can say that, you know, I know people who have been killed for their beliefs in Russia. So, yeah. So I guess there's that. But, and also there's the sort of, there's a little bit of, you know, paranoia. I don't really like to make it super clear where I am at all times, but unfortunately, all of us have a where is it? We all sort of have a location device because this telephone is specially made to hack everything that Google has on Android by the Chinese. I don't know if it really actually protects you from them seeing where you are at all times over there. You know what I mean? So
let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the American Village project that I have a serious question about. Yeah. I mean, is it a failure? If it's not a failure, why? If it is, do you think it's time to give up, or do you think there's still a chance to make it happen?
Well, there's kind of still a chance to make something like that happen because I have a meeting about that with a super rich guy next week. But let's just say it's hard to say if it's either a failure or it's not a failure. I would say it's a bit more of a failure than not. I was able to build a few houses for a few families who successfully moved to Russia that are neighbors, but it's a drop in the bucket. It's not the original plan. Well, the thing that happened is that I came up with a super hype mega project that made international news. All the major news media have wanted to interview me and all the stuff about it and this, that, and the other, right? But I was never able to find an investor. So, when the bill came to actually start construction in the south of the Moscow region of an actual town for Americans in Russia, the electricity bill to get it was 172 million rubles. You can maybe translate and then the dollars, it's a lot. And I don't have it. I'm a middle-class man, and I had a few conversations with some billionaires in Russia about it, and everyone was like, "Yeah, that's the right." Basically, everyone told me that's the right thing to do. That's a great idea. Will I risk a few $1 million on it? Fuck no. So I don't know. Also, the one other problem is you're talking to someone. I'm not a big fan of living with regrets. Like, I don't like that. Like, I don't like to sit around and be like, well, this didn't work out the way I wanted, so I'm going to be sad about it. The only thing I regret is that I didn't start playing American football here until about 6 years ago because I just didn't know it existed. So that's a regret because I just didn't know. But otherwise, I don't know. But the project, it's not what I dreamed of. It is not an international sensation like it was supposed to be. It did help a few people get into Russia because every person who did participate in the project and bought a house, they all have residency or better at this point in time. All of them. No exceptions.
I have an assumption, a theory that once the special military operation ends, and if there are going to be some kind of a little bit more of a less restrictions, let's call it that way, on the movement of financial resources, and perhaps the government here is going to stop putting a stick in its own bicycle wheel when it comes to helping people move. I think that when those things happen, there may be more people interested, but that's just my own theory. Then again, who knows, the future, anything can happen.
I think that you're right, but I will tell you one thing. Russian immigration law has changed. That's another thing, it's changed a lot, and they are more mimicking like a Dubai kind of logic. They used to be just very closed off, or something like some sort of merciful attitude towards the former Soviet Union. That's changed. We're not like Dubai. They're like certain people of a preferential group are allowed to move here and be here only for the specific purpose of putting their lives down into Russia. And if you come here for work, you're a nobody. You come here to work, you don't even leave the factory. If you do something wrong, you're out. And to be honest, after X amount of time, you're also out. So it's completely different. We are Dubai 2.0 when it comes to our migration laws now. That is completely different from what it was like when I came here.
Right now, there is a trend that I don't like. I believe that banning the ability for people to speak with other people is incorrect. I fear that in the future, if they continue banning more and more social media platforms, messengers, basically, again, banning people from talking to each other, especially with the outside world, I think that might lead to big problems. That's what I foresee if they don't stop the trajectory that they're on.
Is it annoying? Yes. The problem is actually the opposite direction. During the Cold War, the group that really put up the barriers was more the Soviet side, to be honest. And what did that do? That allowed the West to demonize the Soviet Union and create any sort of story they want. It's kind of like with North Korea. You can say anything about the North Koreans you want because there's not going to be a reply. There isn't going to be this like beautiful retort over, let's see, there's RT as a powerful force. What would it be? NK today, right? That's going to come on and just rip them apart, and a third of the population of some Western country will be actually agree with the North Koreans. That's not going to happen, right? And so if they do, after the war's over, because during a war the rules are a little bit different, but after the war's over, if we completely isolate Russia within itself, it will go back to the same thing with the Cold War, and in other countries they'll be able to just make up whatever stories they want about Russia. And also the Russians who were sort of in the Soviet Union, who weren't really allowed to leave and felt really trapped, well, that being forced to be somewhere makes you just want to break free, doesn't it?
It does, exactly.
Whereas at least as of now in Russia, you really want to go somewhere, you go there. Of course, it's hard to get a visa to America, but hey, if you want to go, we mentioned Dubai. You want to go to Dubai tomorrow? Buy a plane ticket and go. But in an information sense, we should also be like that. You want to watch some kind of content from India? Watch it, Now, here's the other side of the coin. YouTube is controlled by the West. And YouTube bans everything that's pro-Russian and promotes everything that's anti-Russian. So us have to understand, from the standpoint of the government, we're going to let the most powerful platform in the world be here that's going to just shit on us and block us from trying to retort against them. That's why the Russian billionaire Konstantin Malafeyev actually took Google to court for some sort of insane amount of money because Google has violated the rights of so many Russians, including myself. So how about this? After the war, Russia and the West, maybe, I don't know if it's a government thing or if it's a Google thing or if it's a CIA thing, they need to get together and talk about how we're going to do this. I would prefer there to be more openness and have more allowance of these platforms, so cross platforms, VK over there, VK video over there, YouTube over here, but without this cutting people off because they say the wrong things. And a policy of having, I would just say, again, more freedom and more competing ideas. I think that would be best, but will that happen? I don't know.
One can hope, right?
Because, dude, I'll tell you one thing. If you do not have a competition of ideas, you're fucked. That's what happened with the Soviet Union. That's kind of what happened with the West in general, because the West put on the blinders. We're the West. We are the greatest thing that's ever happened. You have to listen to us. We are the apex of everything. No challenging to the ideas. We are the apex. We are the best. And that's probably what that's like how the victory in the Cold War is what destroyed the United States, because it removed any sort of challenge or competition, and everything just fell apart. And so, I want competition of ideas.
And that's the how are we going to be able to see what the other ideas look like if all the platforms that show us these ideas are banned or blocked? We'll be stuck in our own bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm completely against banning and blocking of these any social media networks whatsoever.
And also sometimes, although like I said, I don't like when Russians blindly copy Europe, but we should also be aware of what's going on in other countries. Hey, sometimes people have good ideas. How did the Chinese build, I forget how many miles it is, an insane high-speed railroad network? Well, in Russia, we're building, but we're nowhere near the Chinese. Maybe we need to ask for help. They seem to have the right ideas. Their country has a lot of cold places and mountains in it too. How'd they make a high-speed train that goes into Tibet? The terrain's brutal. How'd they do it? Maybe we should find out. I don't know. But I do not think being closed off will benefit Russia. It will only be to the negative, to the detriment of Russia. Again, because there's Western showmanship. If Hollywood picks its ass up out of this hole of woke LGBT nonsense that it's in and actually starts creating awesome movies again that make people feel this, sorry, I'm going all over the place, but you have no idea how many Russian politicians I've talked to who'll be like, you know what, Tim, we're really angry at America, but gosh, I love America. I was there and I saw the cars and I saw the houses, or I saw this movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Ultimate American, or Rocky Balboa or whatever, Scarface, or they've seen so many movies, and so there's always this affinity towards America in Russian politicians here that makes me think that even if they had to, I don't know if they could really push the button because they love America so much. And again, if Russia puts up the wall as the country or the culture that's bad at showmanship, it's going to happen. Everyone here is going to see an amazing picture over there and fall in love with it. And there you go.
In every single one of my videos, I have something at the end called the open mic.
Yeah.
And the open microphone is you can say something about anything that we haven't discussed. Any idea that comes to mind?
Okay, open mic. Oh, geez. I don't know. How about this? Well, first off, look in the description of the video and try watching all of my different travel videos. You'll enjoy them. Even in Russian or English, they're translated. You'll get to see them in both. But besides that, you should try visiting Russia if you're interested in it. Like, some people are always just sort of sitting on the fence like, Tim, I want to move to Russia, but this. I want to try going to Russia, but that. Just stop with this trying or waiting or next year. Just come visit. You know, just do the whole visit thing and come see it for yourself, rather than constantly thinking about it. Pull the trigger. You know, if there's something you want to do, it actually that applies to everything in life. Be more decisive. If you want to do something in life, you know, do it. Especially if you have kids. Once you have kids, that's when life begins.